NFL fans, welcome back to a brand new episode of the J All Day Sports Show. In today's episode, I want to do a deep dive on the Philadelphia Eagles roster and see where we could potentially go in the draft this year. We're going to do a mock draft all 7 rounds, but first, we're going to go over this roster, kind of figure out where we need a little bit of depth to add to a team that's looking pretty good. If we take a look at the screen, this is the PFF grades for all of the players for the Philadelphia Eagles. If we take a look at their scheme, this is in the nickel with Mitchell and Slay on the outside, DeJean in the slot, and then we have Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond in the middle of the defense, Sweat and Smith the outside linebackers, and Milton Williams and Jalen Carter in the middle with Blankenship and Gardner Johnson at the safety positions. If we move on to offense, outside receivers, we have Brown, Smith, and Dotson. They kind of mix up in the formation all over the place. And then we have Calcaterra and Dallas Goedert at the tight end position. Goddard is hurt right now. And then across the offensive line, Mailata is the best left tackle in the NFL. Dickerson, Jurgens, Becton, and Johnson are always looking good as well. Hurts and Barkley round out this offense. I think Becton is a free agent this year, so right guard is definitely a concern of mine, especially when we go to the depth chart. Where do we see some needs, right? Behind A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, there's not a lot of talent in the wide receiver room between Jahan Dotson, Johnny Wilson, and Aniyah Smith. They definitely need to consider drafting a wide receiver at some point in this draft. For me, tight end is a major spot of concern for the Philadelphia Eagles as well. If you take a look at Dallas Goedert over the last, several years, his numbers have been considerably less and less every single year. 830 back in 2021 with yards, down to 702, 592, and now at 441. He can't stay healthy. The production is dropping considerably, in my opinion. So tight end is definitely a position of need in this draft for the Philadelphia Eagles, in my opinion. I also want to see the Philadelphia Eagles draft some depth at the offensive line position, right? I do like Tyler Steen. He was good in the plug and play when Becton was hurt, but it looks like Becton is going to be a free agent, so that right guard position is up for grabs. Lane Johnson is getting towards the end of his career, so drafting another big-time tackle early in the draft sounds like a pretty good idea to me as well. We move over to the defensive side of the ball. I want to see some more depth at the D-end spot, because if something happens to Jalen Carter, the Philadelphia Eagles pass rush could be in considerable trouble. The nose tackle position is a position of need as well for the Philadelphia Eagles, in my opinion. Jordan Davis just hasn't been up to snuff so far. But we have seen considerable progress on the Georgia boys. Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean, Zach Bond looks great. Josh Sweat has been okay this year. He's definitely played a little bit better than he did last year. Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean are the future at the cornerback position. The Philadelphia Eagles are going to have to decide whether or not they want to keep Cooper DeJean at the nickel position. We've seen how valuable he is there right now. And then Darius Slay is getting a little long in the tooth as well. For me, C.J. Gardner-Johnson is probably the weakest link on a defense that's performed very well this year. Reed Blankenship is a top 20 safety in the NFL, so his spot is secure in my opinion. I would like to see them bring in some depth. I do like Sidney Brown though as well. If we take a look at this defense, it's pretty solid, man. Darius Slay is not having the best year, but Milton Williams and Smith are on the lower grade side, guys. We definitely need another wide receiver, big time, and some depth at the offensive line. If we move over to our mock draft simulator, the Eagles are picking at 30, 62, 94, 132, 157, 160, and then a bunch of later round picks. So there is a lot of value on the board here for the Philadelphia Eagles. I do love Judkins from Ohio State, one of my favorite running back prospects. Averaging over 5.5 yards per carry. He's kind of regressed. He was off to a hot start and kind of fell back down to earth. With Saquon Barkley on the roster for the next couple years, I don't think the Eagles are going to draft a running back. Maybe in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round, they bring in some depth at the running back position. But I love a lot of these guys. Trey Amos the cornerback is very special player, guys. 6'1", 190. There's two really good cornerbacks. Siobhan Revel is a monster, guys. 6'3", 193 pounds. The dude is an absolute dog. Or do they go edge? James Pierce is in play. LT Overton from Alabama is in play as well. James Pierce is just a lot better of a player than those guys. TJ Sanders, is extremely talented as well if they want to go interior offensive line. So we'll have to see where they want to go early in this draft. So what would I do if I really like Princely Uman-Malin. I probably butchered that name, from Mississippi. He's an extremely talented player playing against top-tier competition, guys. Monster game versus Georgia. The dude's had a really good... He started off hot, cooled off towards the middle of the season. Maybe he was dealing with some injuries, but he's been playing very consistent ball. 11 sacks this year. This dude, the pass rush grade at 90, pass rush win rate over 20% is always huge. And he's a great run defender as well. So if I'm looking at this board, the best player available is probably the cornerbacks, Amos or Revel. I don't know if the Philadelphia Eagles want to burn an early pick on a cornerback again. James Pierce is extremely talented as well. He's played very, very good. Pass rush win rate over 23%. Eagles like their pass rushers, guys. So for me, I scouted James Pierce. He can drop back in coverage a little bit, even though he's more of a hand in the dirt, go after the quarterback type of guy. He has the ability to play all over the defensive scheme. 6'5", 243, big guy, can get his hands up to deflect passes. For me, I'm drafting James Pierce Jr., the edge defender, for my first pick for the Philadelphia Eagles. They pick again at pick number 62. Let's take a look who's on the board. We do have Jack Beck, the wide receiver from TCU, still there. Sebastian Castro's in play for me too. So is Tyler Booker and the safety Kevin Winston Jr. from Penn State. The board fell really good to the Philadelphia Eagles again. Jack Beck, 6'2", 215. He's a talented guy. I do like his contested catch rate at 64%. Receiving grade at 83. Only one drop this year, which is extremely impressive. He's pulled in 62 receptions on 91 targets. That's not a great number for me. If you're targeted 91 times and you're only bringing in 2/3 of the receptions that you're targeted, maybe their quarterback sucks at TCU. That could be an issue as well. But he's got 9 touchdowns, 1,000 yards. This is a very interesting pick. But I think there's other positions of need for the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think they need to go wide receiver this early. Tyler Booker from the Crimson Tide, Alabama. All right. This guy, he's just, pass block grade is really, really good at 87.1, but he can't run block for shit. So that kind of is concerning for me. He's got definitely guard size at 325 pounds. Sebastian Castro, he was excellent in 2023. He's definitely regressed a little bit here in 2024, and you never want to see that kind of regression. 16.4% missed tackle rate is something I don't necessarily love. He can defend the run well as well. I do like him. I don't necessarily love him for a second round pick. Kevin Winston Jr., another guy, played great in 2023. He hasn't played really at all. Only 2 games in 2024. So do the Eagles take a flyer on a guy like Kevin Winston Jr., who hasn't really played too much in 2024? That's interesting. 6'2", 208, prototypical size for safety. But Jonah Savaiananea from Arizona is a pretty decent tackle, right? Pass block grade 83.7. And when you're going to Jeff Stoutland U, they could really teach you how to run block. 6'5", 336. I really like his size in that spot. Charles Grant from William and Mary is a very talented player as well. The grades are exceptionally better, but the level of competition isn't there. So I got to do a little more deep dive on what guy I like a little bit better. Marcus Embo from Purdue is also available, but I think the other 2 guys are just straight up better players at this point. When you're looking, Jalen Royals is on the board as well. Another very talented player, 6'2", 205. I do like that as well. It's a very interesting call right now, dude. Jalen Milroe falling to the second round is very interesting. Alfred Collins going interior defensive line could make a lot of sense. He's probably the best player on the board, playing tons of really, really good competition, guys. And for me, let's solidify this D line in the future. I think Alfred Collins is the guy because we're not going to see this kind of interior defensive line promise later in the draft. We'll be able to get some interior offensive linemen, some receivers, and some safeties later in this draft, in my opinion. So I want to solidify the D line with these first two picks. I love Alfred Collins, pick number 64 from Texas for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, we're going to pick up here in the third round, pick 30. Now that is the time I want to kind of concentrate on offensive line and safety for the Philadelphia Eagles. Billy Bowman Jr. is on the board. Reed Adams from Texas A&M. Looks like a pretty solid player. He's played a lot of left guard earlier in his career. He's played a little bit of right tackle and right guard. I love that kind of versatility there. His grades are very good too. Run block grade 81, pass block grade 79. He can play all over the offensive line for me. So that's a guy I'm definitely considering right now. So let's go offensive tackle, interior offensive line, and see what we're working with. Crenshaw Dixon from Florida is in play for me as well, but he's had a bunch of really bad games this year, right? Gap grade is not very good. He's played both left tackle and right tackle. Kind of split time at left tackle and right tackle in 2023 and settled in at right tackle. He's only allowed 1 sack and 11 hurries this year. 11 hurries seems like a pretty big number to me. 19 hurries for this guy, that's not an option at all whatsoever. He's been a little bit better, Josh Connerly Jr. for the Oregon Ducks, but I think Reed Adams is the guy at this spot. There's not a ton of guys. I do like Armand Membo from Missouri. He's played right tackle his whole college career. He's only given up 3 sacks in over, almost 1,000 snaps. Very, very impressive, guys. I think I'm going to take a flyer on Armand Membo from Missouri because I do want to have someone learning under Lane Johnson in this spot. Third round pick, Armand Membo goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, we are up in the 4th round. Luke Kandra is the best guard available right now. For me, this is another offensive line pick that looks pretty juicy to me. Man, this tight end from Syracuse. I wonder what is the next pick. I wonder if he's going to be there at 157. This could be a trade-up situation. So what I want to do, I'm drafting Luke Kandra right now. And then the Eagles are in a potential spot to make a trade there and trade up in the 5th round because the tight end we were looking at is gone. So now we're in the 5th round, pick 22. There are some tight ends that are available in trades. They got a lot of picks later in the draft that they could package to move up to draft the tight end that they're looking for. There are some quarterbacks available. I think drafting a quarterback in the 5th round might not be a bad idea for the Philadelphia Eagles. Just bringing someone else in the room. Jordan James from Oregon is a very interesting player. I just like filling out. If we take a look at the Eagles depth chart at the running back position, Will Shipley, Kenny Gainwell, he'll be 26 this year. He's not super old, but he's sort of productive-ish. But man, a guy like Jordan James is a very interesting player. 5'10", 210, one of the better running back prospects in this draft class. Averaged 7.1 yards per carry last year, 5.5, over 1,200 yards, 200 receiving yards, 15 touchdowns. I think this is a great pick here in the 5th round. Jordan James is going to the Philadelphia Eagles. And then they get to pick again at 160 and 165, guys. Seth McClellan from Ohio State is an interesting pick for me as well. Michael Taffe, the safety from the Texas Longhorns. He's had an incredible year this year. Missed tackle rate's a little higher than I would like, but that coverage grade is very important, especially considering how much the NFL has transitioned to a passing league. So, Michael Taffe, he's going to the Philadelphia Eagles at pick 160. Now we're picking again at 165. So let's check out these tight ends left in the draft. We got Bringing Stool and Lachey and Delt from Georgia, Mitchell Evans from the one and only Notre Dame. These guys are all kind of in the same area. This guy, Jake Bringing Stool, he's just not that dude. He can't do anything well. Not for me. None of these guys this late in the draft, I don't see any value in any of these guys at all whatsoever. I'm just not a fan. Mitchell Evans seems like the best tight end left on the board, but he's regressed down 14.6 down to 9.4. I don't know. He has come on at the end of the season. 2 drops this year on 29 receptions and 39 targets. He's not really involved in the offense too much. I don't know. The tight end position, I do want to draft someone, and he's probably one of the better players, but I think we can get some more value in the 5th round. I just don't see a ton of talent. Lander Barton has been a very, very good player for Utah. Missed tackle rate at 20% is something I don't necessarily love. If it's over 15%, I don't love it, but he's been a pretty decent player his entire collegiate career, very consistent player. And when you're at this point in the draft, you just want to fill out your depth chart a little bit. Jack Majors from Texas is another interesting pick. He's been a full lifelong center. This could be a position, and he's only given up 1 sack in his entire collegiate career, almost 1,500 snaps, 84.4 pass block grade. Jake Majors coming to the Philadelphia Eagles in the 5th round. Now we got 2 picks coming up in the 7th round. Where do we go from here? If we take a look at our picks, we really concentrated on the trenches here, guys. We got our safety, we got a tackle, a guard, and a center. I really want to see if we can find some value late in the draft at the wide receiver position. Sam Brown from Miami had a really big 2023, but the drop rate at 10%, I don't love that. I want to see a low drop rate. Rock Taylor seems like that guy, 6'3", 215. Maybe a better. We need some speed, though, at the wide receiver position, a shifty guy. These receivers are all big-bodied wide receivers. Another wide receiver, 6'5", Joey Hobart. He's a pretty decent player, 5'11", 180. This is more of a speedy wide receiver from Texas State. Receiving grade, low drop rate. Joey Herbert is going to the Philadelphia Eagles. Very impressive. Only 1 drop and 86 targets. Extremely impressive. Almost 700 yards, 8 touchdowns for a slot guy is very, very, very impressive. And that 1.4% drop rate, he's going to the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, now coming up for the Birds in the 7th round, I'm drafting a quarterback here, guys. I think a guy like Mertz is available as he's got solid potential. Completion percentage at 76% is very, very impressive, guys. Really, really impressive. But Tyler So from Louisville, look at these grades, man. Extremely, extremely impressive. Threw for 3,000 yards this year, 100 passer rating. Extremely, extremely impressive. But the thing that scares me, completion percentage at 62%. So do we take a guy like Metz with that completion percentage at 76%? But you got to remember, this is a very limited sample size. So I'm going to go with Tyler So from Louisville. He could pass all over the field, man. Very turnover-worthy plays, only 1.8%. He takes care of the football. I like this pick for the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, guys, they're grading our draft right now. James Pierce, we got an A. Alfred Collins, C+. They did not like the Mabu pick, but we went on a run in the middle of this draft with Kendra, James, and Tafe. Really, really, really impressive stuff here, guys. We got a B- grade, but I really like this haul for the Philadelphia Eagles. James Pierce Jr. at the edge. Alfred Collins kind of maybe taken over for Jordan Davis, who hasn't played that well. We got a guy in the wings for maybe a stretch pick, but it's towards the fourth round, so I don't really think it's that much of a stretch. We got Luke Kandra, the guard, Jordan James, the running back, Tafe, I love that pick at the safety in the fifth round, Jake Majors, the center, Hobart, the wide receiver, and Tyler Sue from Louisville. I think that's a steal in the seventh round. Give us a little more depth to the quarterback room. All right, guys, there's my latest mock draft for the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me know in the comments below. Do you like my picks? Do you hate my picks? I would love to know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.